Join Jessica Smith on the Like a Girl podcast, where she defies odds, shares inspiring stories, and empowers women to embrace their inner leaders. Tune in for a transformative journey.
So we are working together as one with our finances, as Pastor Paul has suggested. And like I said, this was new territory for us, for both of us. And we are going to one checking account, one savings account. We are putting everything on the table. All assets. We're pulling credit reports. Like, if we're doing this, and we're really going to be one like we should, right? That's what happens when you get married. And it was really backwards, because looking back, that's stuff you want to know before you marry someone. So we really just put everything on the table when it came to our finances. And we were just really transparent about our situation, which also helped us understand what we needed to do to get our financial house in order to achieve a lot of the goals that we had anyway. So I would say one of the biggest challenges we had, it really wasn't, we got past the, I make this much money, he makes this much. He was totally fine with that. And I think it was probably the tithing aspect when he was like, okay, wait a minute. You're giving 10% of everything you make gross to the church? And he was like, yeah, that's a little hard for me, because yes, I am a believer. Yes, I'm a man of God. I'm a Christian, but I think there's other ways to give. I remember him saying, you can give your time, or you can give what you can. I just don't believe that it has to be 10% of your gross income off top needs to go to a church. So we struggled with that, but this is something that I'm still working on today. But one of the reasons why I love my husband so much is because he's a little more open-minded than I am. So he was like, I'm open to listen, but you're really going to have to convince me why that is something that I need to do. I'm okay if that's what you want to do, but that doesn't mean that that's what I need to do with my money. Well, it's not your money anymore. And this isn't my money anymore. It's our money. And what I shared with him, and I think I've shared on some, I shared earlier that when my first mother-in-law, Miss Helen, when she gifted me with that information of the concept of tithing, and that it's not mine. It's not mine. I'm a manager of it all. None of this is mine. And for me, I tell people this all the time, that tithing was a concept that I was able to do very easily. First of all, when I started, I made very little money. Like, I was barely making it. So even though I wasn't giving a lot, most people would say I didn't have it to give. But for whatever reason, for me, I felt so, I guess I felt so ashamed of all of the other ways that I lived my life that I thought, okay, this is the one thing that I know I can do. Like all that other stuff, all that other sin that I'm so deep in, like that's going to take me a minute. But this, to just give. And for years, there were times that I didn't even belong to a church, but I found a church to give to. And when I learned that concept, I mean, I'm going back to probably, I don't know, 95, 96. It was just something that I said, if I can't do anything else to honor God, I can do this. And I never looked back. And I truly believe with all of my heart that my financial blessing, I have had a lot of money come through my hands. And I believe that it had a lot to do with me being a faithful tither and a faithful giver. I'm not saying I didn't work hard for it. I'm not saying I didn't make good financial decisions, but I know that that had a lot to do with it. So I shared that with him, and he was open to it. And I said, listen, just give it a try. And maybe you can start with 2% or 5%, but just commit to something and just do it off top before you do anything. Don't even think about it. And I remember him saying, like, if I'm going to do it, I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to half step. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it. And he did. And he jumped in and he believed, he had faith, and he immediately saw financial blessings and more opportunities. And that was it. That was it. Once he, like me, once he believed and he had that faith, and he was like that, he never looked back. And we've been a family and a partnership where our finances off top. And I thought it was going to be a struggle because in previous conversations and relationships and marriages, that was one thing that it was like, no, you can't, you can't convince me of that. And I was just thankful that, and he didn't take my word for it. He took it to prayer and to meditation. And again, this is a dude that grew up in church with people tithing and doing things like that. But I think that probably has something to do with it as well, because he was exposed to some things that he was like, yeah, that didn't seem right. And that didn't. And it just goes back to sometimes we carry those experiences that we have into our relationships, and find ourselves a little thrown off by them. But I'm glad, I'm thankful that he got it together, so we were able to move past that, and we started setting some real goals. And that first big goal that we had together was to start putting some money away to buy another home. So we had our condo in Santa Clara, and the thought was, all right, I wanted to be by the water. I love the beach. I love the water. Really, I wanted a house right in Monterey. That didn't happen, but we wanted to own a second home. And remember, these folks were telling me that I was crazy for leaving Chicago, that there was just no way that I was going to the most expensive place in the country and I was going to be able to be a homeowner again, much less own two homes. That was going to be a miracle. That was going to be a God thing. And Will and I, we believed. We believed that we could do it. We believed that God could do it. And like, this is it. We're doing it. So we just started setting those financial goals, putting some money away, less stops to the Gucci store and Louis Vuitton, and really just started having a little more discipline with our spending because the other thing is now at this time, we're believing that we are going to own that direct buy showroom. The plan is to have that showroom in Palo Alto and the second showroom in San Francisco. The owners are going to retire and we are going to be multimillionaires in the Bay Area. So I want to make sure that I have that place by the water, and the place in Santa Clara, well, originally it would be a rental property. And then when we were making our millions, if I'm working late, he's working late, we could stay at the condo in Santa Clara. You know how you rich people do. We could, and then if we have an early day or on the weekend, stay at our house on the water in Monterey. That was the plan, right? So we just continue pushing along. And then, of course, you know that another challenge comes up, right? Just because that's just life, right? And so for us, I would say that next challenge would be a discussion about having another child. Now, remember, thus far, I have Jonathan that I had when I was 15. And then almost 10 years later, in my second marriage, I have Xavier. Now, in my mind, I'm good. I'm done. Now, I did always want, I'm going to go back to that little girl who sat on the porch and lined up all her dolls to play school because I was going to be a teacher. I was also going to have one child, but it was going to be a little girl. That was it. Teacher, one child, one girl. Well, I was over that. I knew the teaching thing, I'm good. And I had these two boys, 10 years apart. You're like doing this thing all over again, like it's the first time. Now, remember, Will is a few years younger than me. He has no children. We had this conversation before we got married. And he understood, or at least he said he did at the time, that I'm past that stage in my life. Not that I'm too old to have children, but I really don't have a desire to have any more children. I have these two boys, 10 years apart, and this job. We're about to own this business. Oh, and by the way, that weight loss journey, I've lost over 125 pounds. I have had multiple cosmetic surgeries that were not cheap. I still hadn't gotten to my goal in terms of my weight loss journey and where I wanted to be physically, but I'm not trying to go backwards. It's been a long journey. So we had that conversation and he agreed. It was all good. Well, all of a sudden, it was all good until it was not. And so the topic came up and I'm like, well, we did talk about this. And he said, yeah, but I'm really now having a change of heart. So I'll tell you what, why don't we just take this to God and let's just pray about this. Pray about this together. I'll pray about this on my own. You pray about it on your own. And I said, okay, that's fair. But I'm pretty sure I know that God doesn't want me not happy and pregnant and 100 pounds up and not being able to work every day like I do and changing Pampers. I'm pretty sure that him and I have had this conversation, and that is not what he wants for my life. But I will definitely take it to prayer. So I did, and that prayer went on for a long time. And those months of prayer turned into years of prayer. And I remember we went on a trip to, I think it was Santa Monica, but I have a picture of, well, we have the picture to this day where I was inside. I don't know what I was doing, and I came out and he was outside on the balcony, and I was looking out at him, and he was just standing there with his prayer hands, just with his head up in the air. And I came out and took a picture of him. I'm like, what are you doing? And he was like, I'm praying and I'm believing that this is going to happen. And of course I'm like, well, I don't have an answer for you. So you should just keep praying, because I'm still praying. Now, by this time, God has already told me that I am having another baby. That is something that I'm just going to have to do. And I'm like ignoring him because I had heard it probably, wow, I probably heard it a good couple months in as I was praying. And then I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm hearing what I think I'm hearing. So I'm just going to stop praying about that. And then I don't have to be mixed up on what I'm not hearing and what I am hearing. So I stopped praying about it. And he would ask me, oh, have you been praying? And I'm like, oh yeah. And then I would not feel good about lying about praying. And then I would start praying again. Well, the final straw was I had a dream one night, and it was more like a nightmare. What woke me up was Xavier banging on our bedroom door. And I woke up. As soon as I woke up, I was like, oh man, I just had this dream that I was in labor, and it was so real. And as soon as I opened my eyes, I was like, oh, good. That was a dream. But at the same time, I felt the Holy Spirit was like, girl, now there's consequences. You're going to block your blessings. You're going to block your blessings. And I'm like, so we opened the door. Xavier's like, oh, what is wrong with you? Jonathan said that you're going to have a baby and I'm not going to be the baby anymore. And what? Jonathan said what? So now Will wakes up and he's like, wait, what you say? Jonathan said, what? Somebody having a baby? Wait, what? Did the Lord tell Jonathan that? Where's Jonathan at? And I said, where's Jonathan? He's in his room. I said, why did he say that? Oh, because I said, boy, if you don't stop crying and talk to me. And he says, well, I had a dream and I woke up and I ran and I told Jonathan my dream. And Jonathan said that means you're having another baby. And I'm almost 10 years old, and that's when you have another baby. I said, stop crying right now and go in there and lay back down. So he closes the door, and I just turn around and I just busted out crying. I just started crying. And Will was like, what is wrong with you? And I said, well, here's the thing. I have been not praying and praying and not praying on this. And I had that same dream. And I just woke up from it. And he was like, what? Are you serious? I can't believe you. And I said, so this is what we're going to do. Because again, it may not be, but we're going to find out. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to call Dr. Hooper, and I am going to get my IUD out. If it happens, it was God's will. And if it doesn't, it wasn't. Okay. Now I'm knowing I'm not fertile myrtle. There's been plenty of times that I have not been on birth control. And, there's some women out there that they just, they're not on birth control. You look at them, they get pregnant, test positive. That's not me. So he says, okay. A couple of days go by. He's like, did you call Dr. Hooper? I'm like, dang, man, no, not yet. Give me a minute. And I just, inside of me, I just knew. I get the appointment. I go in. He says, listen, you have had this. This was, I don't remember my 7 year it was actually a 10-year. And he said, you had this a long time, and sometimes it takes time. So if it doesn't happen right away, you just want to have patience. And I said, I remember that Dr. Hooper, I'm gonna be honest with you. I am in no rush. Okay. If it never happened, I'm good with that. That just wasn't God's plan for me. And he said, oh, okay. And, I kind of told him the situation. I said, and I'm just stepping out on faith. And if this is what God wants, then it will be. And I said, that's it. So I got it out, went on my merry way. And do you know, it was not, I would say it wasn't even 30 days. And I was feeling a little off. And I said, okay, I'm not feeling right. I'm not feeling myself. And Will was like, what's that mean? What do you mean? You think, hey, calm down. I said, I'm not feeling myself, but it could all just be in my head because I know what I know. I would just go get one of them tests, come home, just be for sure. Sure, I'm just feeling off. I go, I get the test, come home. I think it's like, I don't know if that's it, whatever it says, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, maybe it's 10 minutes, whatever the time that it tells you that it takes to show up the lines. Yeah, no, it immediately, like, it was like, oh, you're not just pregnant, like you're really pregnant, like you're pregnant. And here I go again. I just started crying. I just started bawling. I'm like, Lord, you play too much. Like, you play too much. So I remember Will was like, he wanted to be so happy, but he was like, I know those are not tears of joy. So I don't want to be too happy and make her too mad. I was just in shock. I was in shock. But at the same time, I just knew. I knew. And again, I was not listening for years. And then I was kind of, I was kind of irritated with myself because then I was like, well, you know what? You knew. You should have just went ahead and got it over with. You prolonged something that was inevitable and you knew. So we doing this. This is it. It took me, I don't know, not long. It took me about a week for it to really, really sink in. And of course, Will was just as happy as he could be. And he was like, I knew it. I knew it. I knew this was supposed to be. And I think what I had decided was, okay, this is happening and I know it's not what I want, but it's just God's will. And if I know and I believe that this life is not mine, I don't have a choice. I know I'm going to love this baby. I know this man is going to love this baby. I know those boys are going to love this baby. Oh, and by the way, this must be my little girl. Surely I did not come this far. I did not walk this journey, and this is not my gift of a little girl. So I started to get a little excited, like, okay, I guess the Lord wanted me to have a baby girl after all. So I decided that I was going to pick out my baby girl's name. And I didn't want one of those. So I always, when it comes to my kids, I don't know if I did this right. I said, I never want someone to know what they are or who they are or be able to have any type of judgment by their name. Not sure if I succeeded, but that was always my goal with, Jonathan was actually supposed to be named after my dad, John Lane, but I was like, no, we got too many Johns. I'm trying to be different. So it was Jonathan and then Xavier And I'm like, okay, Hayden will be my baby girl's name. Let's go.
Thank you for tuning in to another insightful episode of Lead Like a Girl. We hope you found today's podcast valuable. If you enjoyed our podcast, please consider subscribing and leaving a review on your preferred platform. Your feedback is crucial in helping us continue to provide high-quality content. If you found the content inspiring, we would like to encourage you to share this podcast with your network. Stay tuned for more inspiring stories and leadership insights on Lead Like a Girl. Until next time, lead with passion and purpose.